Hi, I'm Tommy Baker, Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Veteran Services. The video you're about to watch is part of a series where we spotlight the incredible stories of our brave veterans right here in the volunteer state. We hope you enjoy this video, and thanks again to all who have served. All right, we have with us today Captain Barbara Bell, U.S. Navy, retired. Barbara, thank you for your service and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm so thrilled to be here today.
All right. Well, hey, look, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and some of the early influences that might have had a bearing on your military service.
Sure. I'm from small town Michigan, northern Michigan. Traverse City is what it's called. And I think of how did I get to where I am today? We have to start at the beginning, absolutely. So I had parents who told the three children that we were all going to college and that we needed to find a way to get there because there was not a lot of finances at home in order to do so. So I just remember those times that was implanted in me a long, long time ago. So the expectation is that our primary job was school, and that it was the way and the gateway to our future. I also remember when my older brother, he was looking around as to where he might go to college, and his high school football coach said, "Why don't you look at the Air Force Academy?" So my brother Dan did, and he ultimately went there. And I just remember this pivotal time where I went out for Parents' Weekend, and I saw all the opportunity that my brother Dan had. And I was not going to be satisfied with anything less than what he was experiencing. So I remember coming home from that weekend and looking towards the Naval Academy because I didn't want to be his little sister. I'd had enough of that over a period of time. He's a great man, not to get that wrong at all. But again, that opportunity, so I decided to apply to the Naval Academy. And then, based on my background with academics and athletics, as well as leadership, I was accepted into the 4th class of women to go to the US Naval Academy, and that's the beginning of my big adventure.
Wow, that's great. What was your most memorable moment at the Academy?
You asked me that question a while ago, and all of these, just so many memories came flooding through. There are the good times, the not so good times, the challenges that made us who we are. But I do think of one time, and it was the day before graduation, and I have a photo of that in my book. It was after the very last parade where we were seniors or first class midshipmen, and we were getting ready to graduate the very next day. So at the completion of the parade, you will never wear that uniform ever again. And we jumped into the fountain, my 2 roommates and I, and we just celebrated. I have this beautiful photo of us where you can just see the joy on our faces, as we know the next day we are going to graduate. So I think of that time. It was that culminating experience and knowing all the heartache that we had been through, all the challenge, certainly being in the first wave of women to go to the Naval Academy, that day after day we picked ourselves up and we moved forward and we were going to graduate. That's one of those moments that's just it's just locked into my memory.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
A lot of opportunity in the Navy. What made you choose aviation?
I remember looking around and trying to figure out what I was going to do. They call it service selection, and I was very intentional about spending time deciding what I was going to do. So because women had just started at the service academies, the services were still trying to figure out how to open up that next phase of jobs for us. And then when women had started flying in the services in the early 70s, very small number at that point in time. I had met a woman who was the first woman to graduate from Navy Test Pilot School, and I think that probably locked it in for me, that that's what I was going to do. I took flying lessons when I was there at the Naval Academy, and just that sense of being up and seeing life from a different perspective. I talk about that 40,000-foot perspective. That's when I knew that's what I was going to do. I was going to fly.
You're through your pilot training. Now you're doing real missions. You're out over the Atlantic Ocean, and you're fixing to land on a U.S. aircraft carrier. Describe that moment.
Well, I do have to wind it back just a little bit. I'm a naval flight officer, so I was a navigator and not a pilot. I didn't have 20/20 vision, but that was not going to keep me from going ultimately to test pilot school. And the combat exclusion laws were in place, so women were, the only women that were flying off the carrier on a regular basis were those who were flying carrier onboard delivery aircraft. But during my follow-on training after flight school, I went down to Key West, Florida, and flew the A3 Whale, and we were flying with fleet aviators, though I was going to go to a support squadron, and we went out to the USS Saratoga to do CQ, carrier qualifications. So I still remember that, flying out of Jacksonville, Florida, going out into the Atlantic, and then all of a sudden you see this little tiny postage stamp bobbing around in the ocean and realizing, oh my gosh, we are actually going to land on that thing. I remember the first call on the radio. I missed it because I think my heart was just beating. So the pilot took over and he made the appropriate call. And then it was like, okay, we're in this. We're doing this. So coming on down from, I don't know, we're probably at 40,000 feet to 20,000 to 10, and the carrier really comes into view. And then that moment when you are probably, 200 feet above the deck and you know that you're coming in, you don't flare an aircraft on an aircraft carrier. You crash it into the aircraft carrier. So you come in with your full rate of descent and you hit the deck, and then you go immediately to full power, because if you miss one of the wires, one of the arresting cables, you got to be ready to take off. So imagine, it's an adrenaline rush like none other. So coming down, you're probably 140 knots. You call the ball, the visual aid, which is giving that fine tuning that you fly to, and then you come into the deck going immediately to full power, and you just keep going until you feel that tug of the resting cable. And you do not come off power until one of the flight deck handlers tells you to come off power. That it's ensured that you have sufficiently caught the wire and that you can come to a full stop. So there's just adrenaline just coursing through your veins, and then they push you back. And then the next thing you know, within about 90 seconds, it was a catapult shot, and you go from 0 to 140 knots in about 2 seconds, and that is more exhilarating than the adrenaline of, oh my gosh, here is this very small postage stamp in the middle of the ocean that we are going to crash into, and we're hoping that we are going to stop.